This is Maple Blues.
Welcome to the Maple Blues podcast where we talk about the NHL, the St. Louis Blues, the Toronto Maple Leafs, and other things hockey. I'm Penguin Oat.
And I'm Charlie ND.
And welcome to both the longest and shortest summer. With the NHL season starting in very late September / early October, we're going to have it's going to feel like a short summer, but also a long summer at the same time. So let's get right to some of the big stuff. Like a few weeks, Father's Day to be exact, Brady Tkachuk traded to the Florida Panthers. I'm going to be honest, I did not think this was going to happen. I thought everyone was overreacting. There's no way Brady was going to get traded. And then he did get traded. And not just to anyone, but to his brother Matthew's team, the Panthers. Not only does this paint a bit of a picture that everyone wants to go to Florida, but that Canadian markets are kind of where no one wants to go. No one wants to go there. If they do go there, they want out. And it's had some ripple effects. But first, Charlie, what are your thoughts on the Brady Tkachuk being traded to the Panthers?
Well, I just want to say the Panthers are assembling one of the least likable rosters in all of hockey. I think if it wasn't for the Vegas Golden Knights, the Panthers would have the biggest target on their back. The modern-day Panthers are how I imagine Western Conference fan bases felt about the Blackhawks back in 2015. And they're going to be a thorn in our side for the next little bit. The two Tkachuk brothers together at last. Wow, who would have thought? This is going to be interesting. And also, I just want to say, it is so funny seeing Senators fans switch up on Brady Tkachuk in real time. Because there's two types of Senators fans, right? There are those who secretly hated him for a long time but didn't say anything because they didn't want to get attacked by other Sens fans. And then there's Sens fans who defended him for so long and are now pretending like they hated him the whole time when they didn't. And that's just really funny to see them reacting to that. And also the Sens are offering 40% off on new Sens merch if you return your Fanatics Brady Tkachuk jersey to the Canadian Tire Center. So that's something interesting there. But yeah, we're going to be seeing more of the Tkachuks. We're going to be hearing a lot more about them. And also, in the modern day NHL, players have more of a say of where they end up. Even non-free agents, I'm noticing. And yeah, it seems to be an increasing narrative that Canadian markets are undesirable to play in, which I don't want to firmly say that that's the case or not. Obviously, if a NHL player did actually think that, it would be against their media training for them to actually say that. But I wouldn't be surprised if that's the conclusion that lots of people are drawing, but I'm going to reserve my opinions on that topic for now.
What I want to first mention is a lot of people are so mad that the Florida Panthers, the Golden Knights, all these Southern teams are so good. They're winning cups. Players want to play there. But wasn't this what fans wanted? Didn't they kind of want the Southern teams to do well, to spend the money, to become an attractable destination? Now all of a sudden they are, and like, no, that's not how it's supposed to happen. No, you're supposed to be bad. You're supposed to be a glorified home game for the Northern teams. It's just hypocrisy all around.
Oh yeah.
This could be a future episode of us like talking about what really is a non-destination market. We could have some type of video about that, about why these aren't markets. Because I know, since you talk about players have a choice. They have no trade clauses, no movement clause. I made my video about the 3 NHL lockouts just a week ago. Good thing the new CBA was signed a year ago. If it had not been signed and was still not signed as of now, I feel like the no trade clauses and no movement clause, that would be the big debate. And I feel like if this is still a problem in 2030 when the CBA is about to expire, or in 2029 when negotiations start, this will be the big talking point. Everyone will be talking about no trade clauses, no movement clause. We got to do some sort of adjustment where 4 teams are the desired destinations. And this Tkachuk trade and one other thing has had a ripple effect. Both the Brady Tkachuk trade and the U.S. winning gold, more players are requesting trades. Dylan Larkin has requested a trade out of Detroit, and Detroit takes it so well they strip him of the captaincy. And Connor Hellebuyck, I think, kind of, sort of officially, kind of wants to be traded out of Winnipeg. and those are two members of the Olympic gold team, and that's just a ripple effect. They're tired of losing. Dylan Larkin, I want to say, has made the playoffs one, maybe
He might
not.
have.
I can't remember. Maybe in 2016, I think. Someone's got to fact check that, but
he did make the playoffs that year.
okay,
That was his
so he has
rookie
made the
season.
playoffs once. He's made the playoffs once, and he hasn't made it back since. And he wants to win. I think his 4 markets that he wanted to go were Vegas, Florida, was it Carolina, and Minnesota, that's interesting. Minnesota. Why is Minnesota a destination place? I know they're a northern city, but they haven't won squat. But Vegas is a juggernaut. Florida's won back-to-back cups. Carolina won the cup. And yeah. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I can't really definitively say what the trajectory of the Red Wings is until this whole Larkin situation's over. But I will say it's kind of disappointing that he doesn't want to play in his home state. Like, at the end of the day, it's like, I get it. People have preferences, but I'm sure a lot of people who are from Michigan are definitely disappointed in him. And someone who has no favorability towards the Red Wings, I'm a little disappointed in him, to be honest. And if he goes to, like, Vegas or Minnesota, I would actually prefer that because, him not being in a conference with my team would be ideal. But that's all I have to say about that.
Now, as for Connor Hellebuck, I hear there were rumors that he might go to Buffalo. I heard the potential return was Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, and I think a draft pick or another prospect or more would go to Winnipeg. And while it hasn't happened yet, it probably will be finalized in the next few weeks. The Sabres, they had a really great season. They made it to the second round, made it to Game 7 in overtime. And Connor Hellebuck will definitely be an upgrade in goaltending. And I will be glad he'll be out of the Central. Get him out of the same division the Blues are in and keep Larkin out of the Central as well. Do not let him go to Minnesota.
If Hellebuck ends up going to Buffalo, that'd be huge. And also, a lot of these Olympic gold medalists for Team USA, they're starting to have a target on their back with Canadian fans. That is really just going to leave a lot of a sour taste in Canadian fans' mouths. And it's going to fuel a lot of this, Canada versus USA rhetoric in the NHL, unfortunately, which we should honestly just be saving for the Olympics and the World Cup of Hockey. But, wow, the Jets, dude. Just a couple years off, removed from a President's Trophy win. Things seem to be going off the rails for them. It's going to be interesting to see how they recover from this.
And what else was I going to mention? Speaking of Minnesota, Quinn Hughes has not re-signed yet, although the Wild owner Craig Leopold said they were going to get a deal done and that a deal was going to get done, but nothing has happened yet. So either the deal is going to be get done like real soon, and they just need to like file some paperwork or something like that, or there is no deal done and Quinn Hughes is going to walk, maybe to New Jersey, maybe not. What do you think?
I honestly can't. I can't give a educated comment on that. Again, I don't like to speculate because a lot of the times I say things and they end up not aging well, so I'm gonna hold my tongue when it comes to that one.
All right, next up, the Toronto Marlies won the Calder Cup in the American Hockey League. Charlie, you were there. Why don't you tell the crowd what happened that night?
Well, this was my first ever AHL game, which is honestly so lucky for me. The first and only AHL game I've been to was seeing my team win the cup. So I made my way from the condo that I stay in Toronto to the arena. It's kind of an old place, but it's got that sort of old hockey barn charm. The ticket was $56, 56 Canadian. And while I was there, I also bought a Marlies hoodie that set me back $90. And I also bought some food. So in total, it cost me less than a Leafs playoffs ticket would have. And the goalie matchup was interesting. It was Aktayamov, I hope I'm saying his name right, versus Primo, who was in net for the Chicago Wolves, the Hurricanes AHL affiliate. And what's interesting about that goalie matchup is that in the 25-26 season, both of those goalies played at least one game for the Leafs. And wow, the crowd was really giving it to Primo, dude. Throughout the whole thing, they were razzing him. And The atmosphere was fantastic. Like, I had been to some junior games where, like, the atmosphere wasn't that good, but wow. For a minor league, the crowd was really, really into it. Like, I sometimes forget how serious Toronto takes hockey. Like, this was a fantastic atmosphere. And I love that Marlies games are affordable, especially, like, for families. And I love that the atmosphere was, like, so electric. Everyone was waving their towels. They were so into it. It was surprisingly loud. And yeah, congratulations to Aktayamov, to Hildeby, who's no longer with the team, to Danford, Quillen, all those guys on the Marlies. A bunch of guys I'm probably forgetting off the top of my head right now. But that was such a fun game to be at. Congrats to the Marlies.
From what you said about the $90 for that hoodie, I feel like that's an MLSC thing. Doesn't MLSC own the Marlies also? I believe they do.
Yep, that's right.
But yeah, good to the Marlies. Maybe some of those players will come up to the big club this year. And speaking of the Maple Leafs, before I get to the Blues, let's talk about the draft for a bit. The Maple Leafs select Gavin McKenna first overall. Shocker. I did not pay attention much to the draft because I had work that night, and I've never really paid much attention to the draft, but I hear Gavin McKenna is going to be the big savior for the Leafs. Hopefully it goes better than the last time the Leafs had a savior, although Matthews is still here for now. I say for now. Hopefully McKenna will do well. I hear also in free agency the Maple Leafs are getting all these big names and getting people, because I feel like the Maple Leafs, they have to get back to the playoffs because if I'm not mistaken, do they have their first round pick this year? Or does Boston have it?
No, their pick belongs to the Flyers, actually.
Okay, so Philadelphia has their first round pick, and I think Toronto still want to get to the playoffs because they do not want a potential top 10 or top 5 pick in the hands of Philadelphia. Although it's going to be tough. The Atlantic will be tough. It has Florida, who has that super team, Tampa, who is trying to keep their window open, Montreal, who is building up a good team, Buffalo, who's coming off a resurgent season, Boston, they will not die, they will not stop, Ottawa, unless the Tkachuk trade, they did not get much in return, they only got a few draft picks, no immediate prospects or players that could help in the long run, so I don't know. I think Ottawa could fall off. Boston, I think, could fall off. Detroit, I cannot take serious. And I feel like that might be it, unless I'm forgetting a team. I might be forgetting a team, because I think I've mentioned them all. So, yeah, the Atlantic's going to be a tough division for Toronto, but we'll wait and see what happens. What do you think?
Well, first, I just want to talk about the draft itself. I made a point to watch this draft. As you can probably imagine, it's not very often you get to see your team pick first overall. So, you got to make a point to watch when it happens. I was 13 years old when I saw Austin Matthews get picked first overall. And now at age 23, I saw them pick Gavin McKenna. And I remember during the draft, Gary Bettman announced a prominent fan was going to announce the pick, and me and my dad were wondering who it was going to be. He actually predicted it was going to be like an old Leafs player, and I was like, no, they said fan, not former player. And then it was revealed, and it was Justin Bieber, which honestly should have seen that coming. And as everyone expected, with the first overall pick, the Toronto Maple Leafs selected from Penn State Gavin McKenna. As I said in the past, the hockey gods threw the Leafs a bone. They have their replacement for Mitch Marner. He obviously is not as experienced, but we needed like a prominent winger. And so for this to happen, it seems unreal. Like, I still can't process this is real. Gavin McKenna is supposed to be amazing. Not quite, Matthews, McDavid, or those players, but he's going to be a prominent name in the league going forward. So for us to have landed him, that is hugely lucky. And overall, it was a successful draft for the Leafs, I think. And I'm cautiously optimistic for next season.
So as for the Blues, they originally had 3 first-round picks. Then After a trade with the Capitals sending Jordan Kyrou to Washington in exchange for Connor McMichael, a prospect whose name I forgot, and another first-round pick, the Blues had 4 first-round picks going into the draft. With the 11th overall pick, which they had, they selected Tynan Lawrence out of the USHL's Muskegon Lumberjacks and also on Boston University. And they also had the 16th overall pick, and they selected Maddox. I believe it's Dagenais. I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
I think,
But
yeah, I think it's like Dagenais or something.
I think it might be French. He might be from Quebec. But the other 2 first-round picks, they went to Anaheim because the Blues traded number 15th and number 29th, those 2 picks, for Mason McTavish. This was a rumor that McTavish was going to be traded to the Blues for certain picks. I'm at least glad that it was not the 11th overall pick. But anyway, essentially those 2 first-round picks came in the previous trades for Braden Shen and Justin Falk, so But then again, McTavish had a down year in Anaheim, but he also did not have a proper training camp because he was holding out for a contract. So I'm going to be optimistic and hope that with the proper training camp and better training, he'll do well this year in St. Louis. Also in the middle rounds, we had a Blues-Leafs trade. The Maple Leafs traded Brandon Carlo to the Blues for 2 mid-round picks. I don't know what to think about this. I'm not familiar with Brandon Carlo's game. Charlie, you'll have to tell me what type of player Brandon Carlo is like. All I know is that he played his best under Jim Montgomery.
Well, Brandon Carlo, he, in my opinion, was not as good as Fraser Minton, who we traded for him. But he was fine. Like, he was very average, I would say. Overall, he definitely did not have his best season with the Leafs, admittedly, so that sort of like tanked his average. So yes, you're right about what you said, but I think under, the right coaching circumstances, he could rebound from what was an unremarkable year for him.
Now, as for other things the Blues did. So, then the Blues have a new GM, Alex Steen, former player. Initially, on June 13th, 2024, the Blues announced the succession plan where GM Doug Armstrong would hand over GM duties to Alex Steen, while Doug Armstrong would stay as president of hockey operations. And on July 1st, technically they did a press conference on June 30th, Alex Steen was introduced as the new Blues GM, and he had decisions in free agency. In free agency, the Blues did make one controversial move, so it's time to address the elephant in the room. The Blues signed Dylan Dubé. And if you guys are unfamiliar, Dylan Dubé was part of the 5 Canadian players in the 2018 World Juniors team that was under fire for sexual assault or harassment, something around that. I don't want to mention the actions that happened. There's more information about that, and I don't know if YouTube will allow that without us being thunderbolted. But long story short, let's just say it's very bad. Very bad. Do not do that. Don't do what Dubé and the other players did. Why is this significant? Is Carter Hart was also part of those 5 players, and Vegas signed him as the goalie. And the Knights went all the way to the finals, losing to Carolina in 6. Dubé had been in the Blues organization also. He had been with their farm team in Springfield. He never got called up, but there was a grumbling that he would be signed by the Blues, and he signed. Now there's a big deal. Blues Twitter has been blowing up. There's been some people defending like, oh, but he was acquitted. He's not guilty. But there's realists saying that where does he even fit in this roster? Because he hasn't played proper NHL hockey in, I want to say, 2 or 3 years. And he was okay in Springfield, but that was Springfield, our farm team. He's going to be like a 4th liner some nights. It's also bad PR because a lot of people are trashing the Blues, and for good reason. I wasn't in favor of that, mainly because it's bad PR. It's bad PR. The baggage is just why. And yeah, I'm just not in favor of the move. I think it doesn't make sense. I'll say this. I'm going to wait a few months, see how he does, and if he is a disaster, I will be riding the I told you so train till Kingdom Come. I will say that. But personally, I think it's a bad move. It makes no sense. It just clogs up roster spots, and at the very least, he'll be an anchor and a parking cone at minimum.
Now, I just want to say, while you were talking, I did have Dylan Dubé's Wikipedia page pulled up. As you guys can see on screen, there's like a very brief summary of everything that went on that doesn't go into too much detail. However, it is worth saying someone else who was named in that investigation was Cal Foote, who I also saw lose the other day, as he is a member of the Chicago Wolves. So there you go, another reason to be glad they lost. But yeah, we'll definitely need to revisit this topic in a future episode. We're gonna pin this, and we're gonna come back maybe in a few months, and you can give an update on that.
Yeah. So back to the Leafs. The Leafs have a new head coach, Jim Hiller. If that name sounds familiar, he was the former head coach of the Los Angeles Kings, known for that 1-3-1 stuff and that infamous goaltender interference challenge in Game 3 in the 2025 playoffs against the Oilers. I think Hiller was kind of meh, good enough in 2024 to get the Kings a kick in the rear end to get to the playoffs, but not good enough to get them past Edmonton. And now he's the head coach of the Maple Leafs. I know he's gone away from the 1-3-1, but I honestly want to know, how is he going to do in Toronto? Because I know Toronto is different from Los Angeles.
Yeah, no kidding. Like in terms of like the players he's going to be coaching, and in terms of like the hockey market in general. You know, if LA is known for Hollywood, then Toronto is the Hollywood of the hockey world for all intents and purposes. So a lot more eyes are going to be on him. He was not my first preference, but you know what? Anything is an improvement over Berube. So we'll see what happens. I'm hoping for all the best, Jim Hiller. We welcome you to Toronto with open arms. There's definitely going to be I don't want to say a learning curve, but an adaption curve, I guess. I don't know if anyone's ever used that phrase before, but hopefully his coaching style blends well with the roster of the Leafs, especially like some of the young guys coming up, more than Berube's did. If 5-on-5 offensive production goes up, that'll be a win. If defense improves, which, by the way, Berube was like supposed to be like a defensively minded coach, and like the defense was garbage last year. I think the Leafs were like near the bottom or at the very bottom in terms of goals allowed. I'm gonna have to check that, but yeah, anything's an improvement over Berube. A cardboard cutout of Ryan Gosling would be an improvement as a coach over Berube. So, welcome to Toronto, Jim Hiller. I'm wishing you all the best.
Next up in the coaching carousel, John Tortorella is out as the Golden Knights head coach, and the Golden Knights have hired Ryan Craig, who was the head coach of their AHL team. I think it was notable that during the postseason, John Tortorella was just brought in to give the Golden Knights a spark to just salvage the season and get to the playoffs, or get through the playoffs. I don't think anyone saw that cup run, the run to the finals in them, and Tortorella's out. Now, I think I heard the plan was they were going to bring their AHL coach in, but it's just fascinating. He got hired like 8 games before the season ended, and now he's gone. So I'm curious how the new hire is going to go, but the Golden Knights hater I am, I hope the Golden Knights fail, just because.
John Tortorella's time with the Golden Knights, while it may have been brief, I think it will be remembered for a very, very long time. This was legacy cementing for Tortorella. All of you guys who were like doubting him or like hating on him before this, you guys can officially shut the hell up. This guy is the real deal. This is a Golden Knights team that finished the regular season with more losses than wins, although they had a very hot finish to the regular season. And Tortorella, he lit a fire under these guys. Like, they were a brand new squad. And, well, like I said in the last episode, I didn't want them to win the cup. Their cup run was amazing to watch under Torts. The silver lining to the Golden Knights winning would have been Tortorella winning another cup, which I think he honestly deserved. But I just want to say, like, the utmost respect for him as a coach. I think he's one of my favorites in the league. Like, he is effective, no doubt about it. And well, it's a shame he's no longer with the team, I guess. But it sounds like every Golden Knights player had nothing but good things to say about him. So good luck to Torts in the future.
Now to the most controversial coach hiring. The Edmonton Oilers hire Mike Babcock. For those unfamiliar, Mike Babcock was the head coach of not originally, but his most recent coaching hire, the last time he had actually coached a team, he was the head coach of the Maple Leafs. Famously during that 2017 to 2019 stretch where they lost to Boston, I want to say they lost to Washington in the first round, then lost to Boston in 7 games, and lost to Boston in 7 games again. Then after a bit of a losing skid, they fired him. And he had been out of hockey for a bit until 2023 offseason, he was hired by the Blue Jackets. And people were panning the move, but nothing was going to happen until allegations came that Babcock was taking players' phones and going through photos as some sort of bonding moment. It made no sense, and eventually, I want to say 70 days after the hiring, he resigned. He did not make it to training camp. It was that crazy. And now, most recently, the Oilers, who fired their head coach, Chris Knobloch, after losing to Anaheim, which I thought made no sense. But they are taking a risk with Mike Babcock. I had a feeling it might have happened. I'm lying. I did not think Mike Babcock was going to be hired again. The only reason I think it is happening is because Coach Q was hired by the Ducks, and it worked well. Here's the problem, though. Coach Q is good at the modern game. Mike Babcock is a dinosaur who has, if I'm not mistaken, has not won a playoff series in more than a decade. So, yeah, this is going to be a big risk, especially with, I believe, Connor McDavid's contract expiring real soon in 2027 or 2028. So, this is a risk. This feels like the last chance for the Oilers, potentially. And if things go up in flames, I think McDavid might be on the next bus out of town.
I do not like Mike Babcock. I remember being 16 years old, and the Leafs, they lost 6 games in a row, and I just knew his time was coming. And when he was fired, I was overjoyed. This guy is not a great coach, in my opinion. He strikes me as a not that pleasant human being, to be honest. And now I have even more of a reason to be against the Edmonton Oilers. There are going to be a lot of Oilers hate watches next season for me. I don't think he should be coaching any NHL team, but, at least it's one that I already hate. Why is this guy in the league? Genuinely. What even happened during that investigation, dude? I guess that, the NHL, they want to give people second chances or whatever, but Oilers fans, just know you're in for it. And that's my piece for that segment.
I looked it up. The last time Mike Babcock won a playoff series was 2013 when the Red Wings beat the Ducks in the first round. But yeah, Mike Babcock is a dinosaur who I have no idea how is he going to adapt to the modern game. Has he adapted to the modern game? Will he ever adapt to the modern game? And will he do it with one of the league's biggest offensive talents, McDavid? What else? I feel like I was going to say something else. Oh, I guess the NHL wants to give second chances, but I think this is more an indictment on the boys club in the NHL than second chances, because Think about how many head coaches get fired, then hired by other teams, and eventually fired again. The NHL head coaching recycling thingamajig, it's a thing. Coaches will get hired, fired, maybe become assistant coaches. Hint, hint, the Blues hired Greg Cronin, former Anaheim Ducks head coach, as an assistant. I'll see how that goes. A lot of people are not liking that. But yeah, it's more of a testament to the boys club system in the NHL, and I just wonder, how is that going to be broken with the modern game? Is more of a speed-based game. It's not about checking physicality. There is some physicality and grit in the game, especially in the playoffs, but it's not the primary aspect. Your team should not entirely be built on grinders who can punch people in the face in November. You'll need those grinders that can punch people in the face in April and May and June, but you also need your offensive talents to light the lamp numerous times. But the NHL doesn't see that, or at least a lot of GMs don't see that, and that's what makes me afraid about Alex Steen as a GM currently, is that he's leaning more on the grit and tenacity and toughness instead of the offensive talents. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I have been wrong in the past numerous times. I could be wrong, and the Blues could be like leading their division in December, and I could be absolutely shocked. If they will, I will be absolutely shocked. I don't think they will be leading the division. That would be an absolute miracle. But stranger things have happened. I'll leave it at that.
All right, then. What's next on the agenda?
Let's talk about Jason Robertson. Currently, Jason Robertson is an RFA, and actually, most recently today, he has filed for arbitration. Along with him is Connor McMichael of the Blues, as we mentioned earlier. But I think I saw someone explain how arbitration works. I believe arbitration. I believe how it works is arbitration in hockey. It's basically a third party comes to settle on a contract with an RFA. Basically, the players and the teams, they discuss it. If the player wins, I don't know how it works entirely, but basically, depending on how it goes, if Robertson, a certain way, Robertson will have a 1-year deal and then become an unrestricted free agent in July of next year. Also notable, during the draft, the Seattle Kraken offered to trade for Jason Robertson, and Robertson said no. And then later, the Blues offered to trade for Robertson, and also Robertson said no. So it seems like Robertson wants to stay in Dallas, but the money the Stars are offering or can offer is not to his liking, which I don't know how to feel about Jason Robertson not wanting to come to St. Louis, because the Blues did pull off those 2 offer sheets of Dylan Holloway and Philip Broberg not even almost 2 years ago. So it's something to keep an eye on. Maybe a Robertson contract will be signed with the Stars soon, but it's something to keep an eye on.
Admittedly, I have not been following this story as closely. There's been so much going on in this offseason. There's even so much we haven't talked about. But you did mention the Seattle Kraken. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there are trade rumors surrounding Shane Wright, who, if you guys will remember, was projected to go first overall not that long ago. And he didn't go first overall. So, as of right now, a trade is probably being worked out. We'll see where he ends up. The Leafs are involved in those rumors. I don't want to get my hopes up for that. But that is definitely something to look out for. He sort of like flew under the radar for a while there, but now that with these trade rumors, he's being talked about in the broader hockey world. So who knows where he'll end up, but that's something to look out for.
I heard the Blues were initially interested, but I think those rumors died down with the Connor McMichael trade. I think the big news more recently, Leo Carlsson of the Anaheim Ducks was tendered an offer sheet. a 5-year, $90 million offer sheet with an $18 million AAV by the Philadelphia Flyers. The Flyers are making a big gamble offer sheeting Leo Carlsson. From what I saw, this is big. The Ducks are in a bit of a chaotic offseason, a year removed from their first playoff appearance and first series win in a while. And now it looks like everyone's gone. McTavish was traded to the Blues. Other people are gone. I think Pavel Mintyukov, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. Either he was going to be offer sheeted or I think a contract is being done. But this is big. The Flyers, who also made the playoffs, they want to capitalize on this momentum, and I think getting Leo Carlsson will be a big deal. But $18 million as the AAV, that is going to make him the highest paid player in the league. This is definitely a risk. If the Flyers do get it, I got to check the details. If that were to happen, Flyers were to get Leo Carlsson. The Flyers were to get Leo Carlsson. If he were to sign the offer sheet, the Flyers will be giving the Ducks 4 first-round picks. All 4 of their first-round picks in the next 4 drafts, which is big.
Wow.
That's essentially a version of the Lindros trade, because I was not alive in the early 90s, and I don't think you were either, so we never knew what that was like. So this is kind of like their version of the Lindros trade-ish. So it's big. I believe the deadline is coming up real soon, so it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Well. Another former Duck potentially going to the Flyers. And $18 million a year. That is that doesn't even sound real. Like, I'm saying it out loud, it doesn't even sound real to me. For Leo Carlsson, that would make him the highest paid player in the league. I'm pretty sure. It doesn't sound right coming out of my mouth, but I'm pretty sure that's right. And it just goes to show, welcome to the new NHL. I mean, the game's evolving faster than we've ever seen. And now with the salary cap being up and going up, this is going to start to set the precedent for what is the new norm in the league. So this is probably the biggest story in the NHL at the time we're recording this. Definitely going to be keeping tabs on this one for sure.
In other big roster news, the Bowen Byram was traded to the Chicago Blackhawks. In return, Bowen Byram and Jordan Greenway in exchange for the 4th overall pick. And when I say the 4th overall pick, the 4th overall pick went to Buffalo. Chicago traded their top 4 pick to Buffalo for Bowen Byram, who was complaining that he wasn't a top defenseman on a team with Rasmus Dahlin. Well, now he gets to be the top defenseman in hockey hell known as Chicago. As a Blues fan, I'm going to laugh. I know the Blues have made some iffy trades, but I don't care. I want to laugh because it's funny. And I guess Bowen Byram will probably get them 1 or 2, maybe 3 more wins, but the Central is also a tough division. You have Dallas and Minnesota, who are both juggernauts. Colorado, barring a President's Trophy hangover, should still be around there. Utah is only getting better. I guess the Blues, you still can count them in there because they are not committing to a rebuild. They think they can make it. They can at least compete for a wild card spot. Winnipeg, I expect them to fall off. Nashville, I think Nashville kind of sort of has officially announced a rebuild. Then there's Chicago. So the Central will also be tough. A clueless move by Chicago. I don't know what their end game is here.
Yeah, me neither. Honestly, me and my dad, we've been talking a lot about Bedard and how the NHL is basically even forcing him to be the face of the league, you know? And how could he be the face of the league when he's trapped in hockey purgatory that is the Chicago Blackhawks team? And it's I don't want to say he's in his prime. I mean, he's had a 30-goal season. I'm pretty sure he's had a 30-goal season. But he's not in his prime yet. And the Blackhawks, Like, what are they doing? They have to, like, figure it out here. They're not going to be in the playoffs next year. I think we can agree on that. And Bowen Byram? Really? I don't know, dude. I mean, this is sort of poetic. I mean, 3 cups in a decade, this is sort of like what they deserve, you know? I mean, it's not really... Okay, it's not what they deserve, but it's sort of like the hockey landscape equalizing itself, you know? It's just the forces of nature, I guess. But, yeah, I don't know what this team's plan is. The Blackhawks they strike me as a team with no direction. And I can also say the same about the Nashville Predators. So, yeah. Aside from those 2 teams, I think the Central, like you said, it is one of the toughest in hockey, but the Blackhawks are definitely not contributing to that at the moment. Although I anticipate the Leafs are probably going to lose in Chicago this year like they always do, but that's a discussion for another time.
I guess we could also call what's happening to Chicago karma for that event in 2010, but I digress. Let's move on. I guess we could also say the Blues are directionless, but they can disguise it as competitively retooling or reloading or whatever buzzwords they want to use. This offseason has felt less of a retool and more like a reload. Like they think with these new guys, this is going to be the year they will. Everyone better watch out. Here come the Blues. They will get that wild card spot. They'll show the league who's in charge. What am I saying? Okay, let's move on to something that you mentioned to me a few weeks ago. CBC is no longer broadcasting Hockey Night in Canada. Charlie, explain to everyone what this means.
All right, so for those of you who are out of the loop, Hockey Night in Canada was the premier primetime slot for nationally televised hockey in Canada on Saturday nights. And it was a staple in this country for decades. Every week, families would make it a tradition to gather around the TV and watch Hockey Night in Canada. Games that were involving a Canadian team that were on Saturday nights would be nationally televised. It would be a big deal. And for a long time, CBC, who are our public broadcaster, they broadcasted it, obviously. And then in 2014, Sportsnet took over the broadcasting. So it changed to having Sportsnet commentators, Sportsnet scorebugs. It was on Sportsnet, but it was also broadcast on CBC because they had a deal. But it was basically Sportsnet took control of the whole thing, which people like whined and kicked and screamed about that. But at the end of the day, people were still going to watch, you know? But now, it's just gone. There's no more Hockey Night in Canada. Rogers, who owns Sportsnet, worked on a new deal with the NHL, and CBC and Rogers couldn't come up with a deal that both parties liked. So, long story short, Hockey Night in Canada is no more. Like, wow. Like, and this is a big deal, by the way, because this is the longest running sports broadcast in the world, I'm pretty sure. I might be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure it's the longest continually running sports broadcast in the world. So there's a lot of prestige on that. And we don't know what's going to happen with Hockey Night in Canada going forward. We don't know if there will be a Hockey Night in Canada. CBC could still bring it back in some capacity because they still own like the trademark and whatever. Like I told to Aidan not that long ago, it could switch to doing PWHL coverage or something. I don't know. CBC could always bring it back in some capacity, but it won't be the same now. Rogers, I don't know what Rogers' plan is regarding broadcasting for next season. In fact, a lot of stuff regarding broadcasting is unsure going into next season. But what we know is there won't be a Hockey Night in Canada. I don't know if this means there won't be nationally televised games on Saturday, which, if there isn't, that would suck for me because I only live in Toronto like part of the year, right? Most of the time I live in BC. But aside from like the few weeks in the year that I live in my place in Toronto, that's the only time I can really watch every Leafs game, right? So You would think that Rogers would have an obligation to have a nationally televised slot, but I have no idea what they're planning. And I said this already, but it's a shame that we never got a proper goodbye. We never got a proper send-off to this historic, legendary broadcast. No special final game, no goodbye from the crew, no emotional send-off, no farewell. It just sort of stopped existing overnight, which I hate. I hate anticlimactic stuff like that. It sucks. But all this to say, I hate Rogers. That's all you need to gather from that. I do not like Rogers. I do not like that Sportsnet has a near monopoly on hockey viewing in this country. I think it really sucks to be a hockey fan in Canada right now. It really does. But that's all I can say right now. I have the article on screen now. I'm sure some of you have been reading as I was talking. And we'll see what happens. But screw Rogers. That's all I gotta say.
Well, it definitely doesn't help that Rogers has a majority stake in MLSE and is the owner of the Blue Jays. But I feel like Rogers would have to. I would think they would do some sort of regional broadcasting, so Leafs fans like in BC and Alberta and other parts of Canada can still watch the Leafs. Since, if I'm not mistaken, there are Leafs fans, not just you, but across all of Canada, not just in Ontario, in other provinces. And I feel like that'd be terrible to not allow those fans to not be able to watch the Leafs, except when the Leafs are in Vancouver or Edmonton or Calgary or places like that. I'm going to go on a limb and say there might be something like that. And since you mentioned broadcasts, the Blues are supposed to get a new channel or somewhere to watch the games. Nothing has come out yet. So I'm going to go on a limb and guess a few things. These are not official. These are my guess. Either one, the Blues are going to go on Victory Plus, just like the Stars and the Ducks, because the Blues have had some sort of partnership with Victory Plus for preseason games. Or two, they will go on a network channel, like some basic cable news channel in the area, and games will be broadcast there. I don't know what's going to happen, or there could be a third option where they just create their own channel, either with different teams in the league, or maybe with the Cardinals. Maybe the Blues and Cardinals and the Royals form their own channel for the Missouri sports teams. I don't know what's going to happen. We will wait and find out.
I told you this already. Actually, say what you were going to say first.
Actually, no, continue on, because I think getting to the last thing, go ahead.
All right. I think that it's important for teams to be easily available to watch, at the very least within their own region, right? Because if you want to build a fan base and maintain a fan base, games need to be accessible to watch. That is like the most important thing. So the Blues need to prioritize whatever makes it easiest for everyone to watch, both at home and in social settings like bars and restaurants. And if they can work out a deal with Victory Plus, that would actually be great for like easy access viewing, because I believe Victory Plus gives free viewing for Ducks and Stars fans within their territories. And that's great. That's super convenient. I mean, sure, you could laugh at like the irony that like they're going to be on a streaming service that's owned by one of their division rivals, which kind of sucks, but you know, if you can watch the game, can you really complain?
Yeah, that's a bit of irony, I guess. But then again, they have worked before, so why would they? You mentioned the region. The Blues broadcast region is mainly Missouri, but also like states that border Missouri, so like parts of Illinois, Kansas, Iowa, Indiana for some reason, even though they don't border Missouri. I don't know why, but I digress. And to round out this episode, from what I heard in the Hockey Guys live stream from today, the schedule will potentially release on July 16th. I don't know why it's taking so long, unless it had something to do with the broadcast, because if you may have noticed, if you're a Blues fan like me or someone in the Central Time Zone, you may have noticed sometimes your team plays a 6 o'clock home game on a Saturday against Canadian teams from the East. That had to do with Hockey Night in Canada. Like when the Maple Leafs or the Canadiens were in St. Louis on a Saturday, it would be a 6 o'clock start, 7 Eastern. Something tells me with these whole broadcast boogaloo thingamajigs, the schedule is kind of being shuffled around a bit. They got to figure out, okay, what day can we play games? What time can we do that? Who's going to be broadcasting these games? It's just a bunch of big question marks that the NHL has to answer, and I think that's what's delaying the schedule. At least that's my guess. Now, as for the schedule itself, remember, it's going to be 84 games as part of the new CBA. That's why the preseason is 4 games. So far, the only things we know that I've mentioned before, the season starts in very late September / early October. And also, Halloween is on a Saturday this year. So I am curious and hopeful that the Blues will play a game on Halloween, and hopefully at home, and I'll go to that game. But we'll find out either on July 16th or sooner. Hopefully sooner.
Yep. I'm in favor of the 84 game regular season. I know a lot of people have disapproved of it, but I like it just because 84 is just a number that's divisible by 4, so for my own selfish reasons, I like it more. But also it means an even number of games against all of the division rival teams, which is good. And this isn't the first time the NHL has had an 84 game schedule. They had that up until 1994, so I'm glad they're bringing it back. And the shortened preseason, I honestly don't mind. I mean, it's just a preseason after all. Doesn't need to be overly long. So yeah, I'm anxiously awaiting the release of next season's schedule.
Whenever the schedule is released, I think we'll end depending on what else happens in free agency. That's probably when our next episode will be. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yes, there is. That we somehow have gone this entire episode without mentioning the Carolina Hurricanes. Congratulations to the Carolina Hurricanes for winning the Stanley Cup. This Canes team had destiny written all over them. Where I live, the sports media was not talking about them much throughout the season, but those of us who were watching them, you knew this team was something special. I knew that when the playoffs started, okay, this has to be the season they finally get over their Eastern Conference final woes. And they did. And not only did they get past that hump, but they looked good doing it. They put on a defensive clinic against the Senators, against the Flyers. They stumbled a bit in Game 1 against the Habs, but they found their form after that. And that series with the Golden Knights, that was spectacular. That 4-goal comeback was amazing to watch. I mean, they still lost that game, but still. Anyone who said that was going to be a bad final, no offense, but you're an idiot, okay? That was an amazing final. And I've been pretty lucky. A team that I've downright hated has not won the Stanley Cup in a pretty long time now. So, yes, I'm happy for Frederik Andersen. I'm happy for Seth Jarvis. I'm happy for a lot of these guys. This was a very likable squad. I'm glad that those of you guys in the Carolinas got to see your team hoist a cup. Congrats to the Carolina Hurricanes.
Yeah, congrats to the Canes. It was good to see the Golden Knights lose. Although you mentioned destiny, and this was a team that was going all the way. The only bit of bitter irony was the Hurricanes got swept in the regular season series by the Blues. And I was there for the one Hurricanes visit to St. Louis. The Blues, for whatever reason, this season was not good, but they were dominant against Carolina. I don't understand it. They outscored the Hurricanes 6-1 in the regular season, 3-1 in Raleigh. I don't get it. But why am I talking about the Blues? Hurricanes won the Stanley Cup. Congrats to them. And we'll see if they can defend their title. Is there anything else you'd like to add to this episode?
Nope, that pretty much brings us to a close.
Okay, and with that being said, that will do it for episode 11. And we hope you enjoyed. Be sure to check out both of our channels, our social medias as well. I post updates on Instagram about episodes. Be sure to check out Charlie's as well. Check out other videos, and definitely be sure to check out his one video on MLB streaming. I was going to mention that about the broadcast, and it sounds similar to the situation we have today. But With that being said, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next episode.